A 32-year-old woman sits alone in her apartment, scrolling through social media, while everyone else is out living their lives. She doesn't know it yet, but her loneliness is literally rewriting her DNA, making her more likely to die than if she smoked a pack of cigarettes every day. Social isolation doesn't just hurt your feelings. It systematically destroys your DNA and triggers the same biological response as physical torture. This is the story of how scientists discovered that loneliness is more deadly than cancer, obesity, and smoking combined, and why your brain treats social rejection like a life-threatening wound. In 1988, epidemiologist James House was studying death rates in a small Michigan town called Tecumseh. He tracked 2,754 residents for 9 years, recording every detail of their social lives and health outcomes. What he found defied everything medicine thought it knew about what kills people. People with the fewest social connections had death rates 2 to 3 times higher than those with strong relationships. The effect was so strong, it made loneliness deadlier than smoking 15 cigarettes per day. House triple-checked his data. The results remained the same. Social isolation was a silent epidemic. But nobody could explain why missing human connection would literally kill you. The answer lay hidden in our evolutionary past, written in the deepest code of human survival. For millions of years, being cast out from your tribe meant certain death. No protection from predators. No shared resources. No help when injured or sick. Natural selection shaped our brains to treat social rejection like a physical emergency. When you feel isolated, your nervous system activates the same threat detection systems triggered by a charging lion. Your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis floods your body with stress hormones designed for immediate survival. Cortisol surges through your bloodstream. Adrenaline spikes. Your immune system goes into overdrive. This response was perfect for short-term physical threats, but devastating when triggered constantly by social isolation. Dr. Steve Cole at UCLA decided to investigate what chronic loneliness was actually doing to people at the cellular level. What he discovered in 2007 fundamentally changed how we understand the biology of human connection. Cole analyzed the genetic activity of people who scored high on loneliness scales versus those with strong social bonds. In lonely individuals, 209 genes had significantly altered activity patterns compared to socially connected people. The lonely participants showed massive upregulation of genes involved in inflammation and immune activation. Their bodies were essentially preparing for battle against infections and wounds, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Meanwhile, genes responsible for fighting viruses were significantly suppressed. This explained why lonely people get sick more often and take longer to recover from illnesses. But the most disturbing discovery was what chronic inflammation was doing to their cellular structure. The constant inflammatory response was literally shortening their telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes that determine cellular aging. Every day of loneliness was accelerating the biological aging process by months. Cole's team calculated that chronic social isolation ages your cells by an additional 1.67 years annually. Dr. Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA wanted to understand why social rejection feels like physical pain. She put volunteers in MRI scanners and had them play a computer game called Cyberball. Participants believed they were playing catch with 2 other people online. After a few minutes, the other 2 players stopped throwing the ball to the participant. The brain scans revealed something extraordinary. Social rejection activated the exact same neural pathways as physical injury. The anterior cingulate cortex and right ventral prefrontal cortex lit up like Christmas trees. These are the same regions that activate when you burn your hand on a stove or break a bone. Your brain literally cannot tell the difference between social rejection and physical torture. This explains why we use the same words to describe both experiences. We feel hurt, wounded, or crushed. The language isn't metaphorical. It's neurologically accurate. But unlike physical injuries that heal, social wounds can reopen every time you remember them. Each recalled rejection reactivates the pain network, creating a cycle of psychological torture that can last for years. In 1985, the average American reported having 3 close friends they could confide in. By 2004, that number had dropped to 2. Today, it's approaching 0. Nearly 25% of adults now report having no close friends at all. The COVID pandemic accelerated this trend, But the loneliness epidemic was already killing people long before lockdowns. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy declared loneliness a public health crisis comparable to smoking and obesity. The economic cost is staggering. Lonely employees take more sick days, perform worse, and quit more frequently. Healthcare systems spend billions treating the physical symptoms of social isolation, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, but they're treating the symptoms, not the disease. The disease is disconnection itself. Social media promised to connect us, but created the illusion of connection without its biological benefits. Your nervous system requires physical presence, eye contact, and shared experiences to trigger the neurochemical cascade of bonding. Scrolling through curated highlight reels while isolated actually increases loneliness and triggers more inflammatory responses. We're more connected than ever and lonelier than any generation in human history. But there's hope. The same evolutionary programming that makes loneliness deadly also makes human connection extraordinarily healing. Dr. Cole's research showed that people who increased their social connections could reverse the genetic damage of loneliness within months. The inflammation genes that had been overactive began returning to normal levels. Virus-fighting capabilities strengthened. Cellular aging slowed. The quality of connections mattered more than quantity. One authentic friendship provides more protection than a dozen superficial acquaintances. Physical touch, eye contact, and shared vulnerability trigger the release of oxytocin, the hormone that repairs social pain. Even brief positive social interactions can reduce cortisol levels and strengthen immune function for hours. Community involvement, volunteer work, and joining groups based on shared interests provide multiple connection points. But the first step is often the hardest. Admitting you're lonely and actively seeking connection despite the fear of rejection. Your brain will resist. It's evolutionarily wired to expect rejection when you're already isolated. This negative bias makes lonely people more likely to interpret neutral interactions as hostile, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Professional therapy can help break these destructive thought patterns and provide tools for rebuilding social skills. The woman in the apartment puts down her phone. She's tired of watching other people's lives. She doesn't know about telomeres or inflammatory genes, but she knows something needs to change. Tomorrow, she'll text that old friend who reached out last month. She'll join the hiking group she's been researching. It feels terrifying and artificial, but her life depends on it. Literally. Because loneliness isn't just an emotion. It's not a character flaw or a temporary mood. It's a biological emergency that hijacks your cellular machinery and accelerates your death. Your DNA doesn't care about your pride, your introversion, or your social anxiety. It only knows that isolation means death, and it will kill you to save you from that fate. The cure for loneliness isn't just feeling better, it's staying alive. In a world designed to isolate us, choosing connection is the most radical act of self-preservation.